To those who have been on a reality show or game show, what really happens? How much editing is really done? And yes, I'm a bot. What's your problem? Cracked.com had an interview with kids that were on a reality show back when Cracked was good. The concept was that the kids ran a town with no adults around. All the kids started swearing with less adult supervision. When the producers decided which kid they wanted the audience to hate, they played his normal speech with the swears bleeped. For the other kids they carefully edited around the swearing. So to the audience, most of the kids were being polite except for this one jerk who swore a lot. My buddy won the showcase thing on Price is Right, pretty straight up from what he said. Bob Barker days. Yes, they filmed the whole show from start to finish in about an hour. They only stopped once, briefly, at the taping I attended to do some of the voice work over, for prize descriptions. This was a few months ago. I was on The Price is Right. They cut out one thing I said to Drew. Other than that it was pretty straightforward. I won $51,000 in prizes. I was on Double Dare in 1986, when Nickelodeon was still based in Philadelphia. There was not much editing going on. If I remember right, they were shooting 4 episodes a day, so it was pretty fast paced. We got an intro in the ready room, and then it was mostly live. We even did the commercial breaks like it was live. My team won the episode, and got to the obstacle course, and we were already blown out by the time it started. If you watch the video, you can see Mark Summers drag me through a couple obstacles. It was an amazing blur. And no, we didn't get the trip to Disney World. I think we only finished 6 of 8. If you want to watch the episode, here's the link. I'm the David with the strawberry. I heard from a Big Brother contestant that there is a clause in the contract that they can be sued if they speak about production and what goes on in the diary room. That should be a tell that production does influence the game/edit it the way they want. As a big fan of the show, they do get caught talking about production plenty of times, and Big Brother comes over the loudspeaker and tells them you are not allowed to talk about production. The first rule of Big Brother production is you do not talk about Big Brother production. I was at a party with a lady who did makeup for a reality show. She told us about a guy whose job it was to make contestants cry. He would get told who needed to cry, then go talk to them for a little while, and by the time he was walking away the contestant would be in tears. I'm guessing he was a producer who had a specialty, but I've often wondered if there is a secret profession dedicated to making TV contestants cry, like a cooler but for crying. I work with someone who previously worked with Gordon Ramsay for about 2 years. She said that his TV persona is all an act, and that off camera he is actually nice. I have already posted this from an alt account long time ago. I auditioned for Whippet. They were only interested in people that acted literally insane. Are you ready to go crazy? I'm already hearing voices. You're hired. My teacher was put on one of those house hunter shows. He told us that he picked out his house beforehand, and they then pretended to show him 2 other houses, so the whole thing is BS. This explains so much. My parents and I watch House Hunters together, and there are instances where one of the houses shown is objectively better than the others. It's got quirks and flaws, but in a way that's much more minimal than the other house. 9/10 we bet on that house being the winner. It isn't. The buyers make some case about how another house is so much better, and that the 30-minute commute on the one my family thought would be chosen just isn't worth it. Now, it makes sense. They already bought a house and the production team did too good of a job picking the competition. I was on Judge Judy in 2006. I was the defendant. JJ really is as mean as she appears. She's also much shorter than you think. Before they tape your episode they have some assistant run between the plaintiff and defendant's green room saying oh they just said this about you, in an effort to amp you up before you tape your episode. The set is very small. When my episode aired, they had chopped it up quite a bit. There were times JJ asked me a question that I answered while there, but what aired was just a shot of me standing there looking like a moron. that had no answer. It was definitely designed to make me look worse than it was. But I got a free 5-day vacation, $1,000 in cash, and the show paid the judgment, $3,500. So I figure I made about $7,000 to make a somewhat ass out of myself on TV for 11 minutes. Would do again. Footnote, that night after taping, we got drunk in the VIP room, found JJ's star on the Walk of Fame, and peed on it. Have met her socially. Her TV personality is her off-screen personality. 3 out of 10 would not party with again. To follow up on this, court shows will have a prompter under the participants' podium, and the producers will put up notes for them. Usually a few words to cue them to make a point or something. They can make the text flash and stuff. Also, they absolutely get sliced and diced in editing. I worked at a studio that brought in a syndicated judge show for 3 months, then that studio was closed for the HD upgrade. The judge shows just went all day, bagging cases, non-stop. The volume of shows they made was kinda impressive, and most people I'd see hanging out by the elevators seemed to know that the generous appearance fees they earned relied on hamming up the drama. My husband and I were on a documentary about how communication has changed over the years for people in the military. Being able to talk to spouses and such. One part they were interviewing me, and apparently I didn't look sad enough, so they told me to think of him being gone, etc., and to stare off in the distance. We did this 3 times. I was on back quote naked and afraid. You are in a real survival situation while out there, but not as far out as you'd think. We could hear trucks drive by occasionally. The production crew was really great and there wasn't any bull happening where they fabricated things either. If stuff happened and they didn't get it on film we would have to reenact it, so they had footage for the show. We visited a friend on the set of The Real World. It was the same weekend parents of one of the other housemates were there, and the producers tried to start beef between the 2 housemates over us staying in the house and her parents being in a hotel. We were sleeping on the floor in her room. When we would talk to her about how the show was going she said it was really boring most of the time, unless they staged an event. My friend was on an episode of Cash Cab, New York City. He said that he had answered a Craigslist ad about being on a game show. He emailed back and forth with a producer and the concept was very vague. They told him they were sending a car to pick him up for the interview, and it turned out to be the Cash Cab, so it wasn't totally random, but he was surprised. It was mostly real, but they had him reenact some answers and reactions. We were consultants for a Netflix series about how technology has changed relationships and dating. The topic was camels. They wanted to do an episode where a camel went to meet their client in real life, which is something so insanely rare I'd never heard of it happening in 10 years in the biz, save for Eastern Europeans or Filipinos that go camming specifically to meet foreign husbands or scam foreign men. Your run-of-the-mill cam girl is doing that job specifically to avoid physical contact with clients or having them intrude on their real life at all. Her camming persona is nothing like her real life in most cases, leaving out the sticky bits like family and day jobs. The big sites for camodeling are not dating sites. We kept telling the producers they were barking up the wrong tree and really missing an opportunity to tell very different and real stories versus the concocted bull you see on Hot Girls Wanted and such. They wanted to show the reality of how tech has changed dating, and they were inventing a non-story out of whole cloth to do so. Grudgingly we put out a casting call to about 4,000 camels and nobody bid despite the money being offered. I thought that was the end of it. About a year later, the episode finally came out, and it was about as lame and cringe-worthy as expected. They managed to find a part-time camel that had an Australian client, I think, some non-American English-speaking country. They ordered her not to tell him she was already married, and flew her out for a date with him. That of course ended awfully. They set that poor schlub up for some major failure so they could get the tears. Even deeper, there are people who actually pitch ideas to the court type shows. Even Judge Judy. A friend of mine had an idea for a father/son case and asked my son and me to be the parties. We agreed that the dude would get 15% of everything, and my son and I would share the rest, no matter who won. C. Both parties are paid to be on the show, and whatever judgment is paid by the show. I was suing him for the value of an expensive gaming computer I bought for him, and then he sold it for drugs. None of it was remotely true, and I was supposed to be the jerk controlling dad, and him the loser drug addict teenager. The script was actually very good. He was actually a straight A student, and we had a great relationship. This was for a new court show, so they were actively looking for cases for the pilot. The show didn't buy the idea, so we didn't do it. Bummer. My cousin was in the second season of Big Brother in Mexico. The first one was a real hit, and he told me that they were instructed to make up fights and arguments with one another to raise ratings. Pink slip, I'm the pregnant one. They did edit out some info we shared that made us look less of an idiot. Also, they told us not to give any attitude and looked like we were the victims. What they edited. 1 point when she thought she won the case. 2 point she had threatened to cut my belly open. Wait, she had threatened to cut you open, and they took it out, but left in the I'm going to kill you. It was real. We had an actual court case in Van Nuys. She was suing us for $9,999. We got a letter in the mail from the Judge Judy show. They wanted to take the case. I said no, because it was embarrassing lol. However, the Jimmy Kimmel show offered $1,500 each to show up. And that Croatian girl was a total C. After the show she ran up to us and stated screaming she deserves an apology. You don't want to know where Nickelodeon actually gets their green slime. Shrek intensifies. I'm friends with a former Big Brother contestant. My daughter interviewed her for a class project, and this subject came up in the interview. She mentioned a specific incident where they took footage from a conversation 2 days prior and inserted it into the middle of another conversation to play up the romance angle. During a competition something happened, and they had to pause the competition and fix a problem that was causing them to fall behind. She made a comment like God wants this for me. Nothing big. 2 days later she asked the guy she had been partnered with for a shoulder/neck massage because he had promised her one if they had won the competition. In the TV broadcast they spliced in her God wants this for me comment to make it sound like she believed they were destined to be a couple. She said there were lots of incidents like this where they mix and match different conversations to push the story they are building for each of the contestants. My aunt used to work at Nickelodeon Studios in the 90s, and she said it was vanilla pudding and lecithin. I actually got to go in the gag kitchen in 1997 and taste it. I remember it had the texture of a pless sauce, but it tasted kind of like pistachio. Ike. I was on the Croatian version of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire recently. The handshake that happens after you win fastest finger is edited. You walk up to the host, shake hands for a bit, then the crew hooks your microphone up and fixes your hair and makeup. Afterwards you return to the same spot and shake hands again so that they can edit the whole thing more smoothly. Also, there was no actual break during the commercial break. The audience would just clap continuously for 20 seconds or so. Otherwise there were no bigger interruptions or cuts. Some bits of conversation were cut for time, but there weren't many of those. Been on My Country's Got Talent. It was supposedly good publicity for my dance school, so we signed up and got casted. Endless waiting in a TV studio, filming short cheesy fake scenes as instructed by the crew, trying to keep muscles warm while you wait indefinitely to be called on. We got 4 yes, but so did a lot of other people. We were not selected to move on to the next episode, thankfully. Dunno, I guess if TV is your thing it might be a cool experience to shoot and get your 2 minutes of airtime, but as far as I'm concerned even the smallest live performance beats TV stuff 10-0. A former friend of mine was on Jerry Springer. All of the fights were staged of course. My cousin bought a house, but the realtor said they were attractive and asked if they wanted to be on House Hunters. They toured different houses and chose a random one. It cut to a scene where they were sitting in that random backyard. So stupid. My friend auditioned for The Voice Australia. They wanted her to lie about her family and create some sob story. She refused and she didn't get to go on the show. Recently my friend wanted me to apply for an audition. In the application they ask you all these personal questions about your family. Like who do you live with and why. Thankfully that was enough to get my friend to stop filling out the form. My aunt was on Wife Swap and she said the producers told them to start fights. They also played up their quirks and made the kids be brats. Her son really didn't like the producers telling him to start a fight with the swapped mom. They also had to put their dogs in boarding because they had 3 and the producers didn't like them. They also made her husband open his business, a haunted house, that is only open from September to beginning of November, so they could film swapped mom getting uncomfortable. The producers also would say things to them behind the family's back. So my aunt would be told that the swapped husband said this, or vice versa, to create tension. They also gave them a script during the reunion. They had to fight. She said the experience was extremely weird. My family and I went to an airing of Extreme Makeover, Home Edition. They wanted a crowd of people to cut to who would cheer and clap at the appropriate times in the final product. They didn't even bring the family out and then have us cheer naturally. They directed us to clap, yell, chant, etc. The host, the redhead gay man on Modern Family, was there, but he was literally only out of his trailer for like 30 seconds, whereas the crowd had been there for 2 hours, and it was really hot. I'm kinda pissed about that he didn't even say hi or thank us for coming. I was cast for MasterChef, and during the interview they asked me what I thought of Gordon Ramsay. During the auditions we were on camera, and was like, that dude is awesome. He speaks his mind. Doesn't take crap. Cut. We think it would be easier to sell you to the final casting directors if you were really aggressive. Say things like, if he gets in your face, you'll put him in his place. Say things like you think he's all talk and you're not scared of him. So I did. Then they asked how I would get along with everyone in the house. Well, I'm pretty chill. I get along with everyone. I'm just here to show off my cooking skills. No drama. Cut. We also think we could spin you as the playboy in the house. Say stuff like you're going to swoon all the ladies to get them on your side and then sabotage their food. Say you're not here to make friends. You're here to win. So I did. Not one word that went to the casting director was my own. I was cast. I didn't win. Family Feud about 16 years ago. We lost. There are lots of other families there. A family is a loose term. The meals are horrible. If you lose, you keep nothing. Not even the name tags. It's so darn stressful. My team picked me to be the lead. I was either lacking in looks or personality because my younger sister was promoted. My close friend in high school was on MTV's Made, and it was a lot of weird editing and forced scenes between us. They encouraged us to discourage him, so when he finally got Made we'd be like, oh wow. You surprised us. We'd also say something and they'd tell us how to say it better and film us a couple of times saying it for a good take. We were also forced to talk only about our one friend and his process of being made for like 5 to 6 weeks for the episode, if he was around us, usually at lunch or in our shared classes. It was exhausting. All the drama was real though. BC, my friend, was a theatrical dramatic person anyway, lol. Also the being made at the end was staged. BC, he got made to be a jock and to make it onto a sports team, and he just wanted to be on TV. The coach knew, and he fudged it to be like, wow, you impress me, you're now a varsity player, and he never joined the team after film crew left, lol. Maybe late to the party, but I was on Wheel of Fortune several years ago. The thing that took me by surprise the most is that each episode is shot consecutively. There would be a wardrobe change for Pat and Vanna, and then the next episode would be shot. We waited in a back room and Vanna came in before filming to introduce herself, sans makeup and wearing a sweatshirt, to show us she was just a person. It was a super nice gesture and really put people at ease. We took a very short break during the competition, where our macup would be touched up, or we would be given water, but the whole game went by super quickly. Then a lawyer went over your prizes, and whether or not you wanted to accept them. It can be expensive too. I owed a ton in taxes on the prizes I won. My mom been on The Price is Right twice, once with Bob Barker and once with Drew Carey. The way they determine who gets on is that every person who comes to be in the audience gets interviewed for just a minute, getting asked the same question, and I think based off of personality and things like that is how they pick. It's not completely at random. Also, if you win a prize, best believe you're gonna pay taxes on it. My mom won a car and she had to pay like $1,500 in taxes on it. Also, they don't film the same day. My mom was on a Christmas episode and they filmed it in like October or something and had everything themed like it was Christmas Day. My mom also told me that Bob Barker basically was orange in person. It's just hard to tell when you watch it on television. Like, she told me he had so much macup on his face that she could taken her finger and literally scoop some off. Game show. Who wants to be a millionaire? You have to sign a $50,000 penalty non-disclosure agreement. Also, you have to sign a $50,000 penalty agreement that you will not show your face in another TV for 2 years, including movies, interviews, surveys, and so on. Most of the studio is made of paper. The audience voting devices are just cheap Xiaomi Android tablets with plastic frames. Some people are completely cut off from the TV. This happens, especially when the correct answer turned out to be wrong, or when there was more than one correct answer. The contestants get to resume their game, but it's not shown on the TV. Former reality TV editor here. We used to say we weren't making reality, we were making dramality. It mattered less how real it was. It mattered more how emotional we could make it, fun, sad, suspenseful, funny, etc. We quite literally would have transcripts of the footage made so that we could assemble phrases as we wanted within limits of believability. Like, I would go through maybe 20 versions of someone's what to find the one that fit a sentence we needed to make something work. We called it Frankenbiting. This is part of why reality editors tried to join the Writers Guild in the early zeros. But now that deepfakes exist, God help us all. I was on the show Dragon's Den, which is the Canadian version of Shark Tank. I pitched to Kevin O'Leary and Robert Herjavec, along with Jim Treliving, Aline Dickinson, and Bruce Clarkson. The producers interview you and have several conversations with you leading up to the show. They work with you on your pitch and help craft it. I had a completely different pitch until the day before the show. My producer called me and asked me to do my pitch. She said, "I hate it. You're relying on them to say something. What if they don't do what you want them to do? You need to stay in control of the pitch." Since I was pitching a hangover prevention / recovery drink, she wanted me to go to the bar and get wasted the night before my pitch. So I did. I got obliterated. Was I hungover on the show? No. Was I super tired? Yup. Got about 3 hours sleep. Each of the dragons have an earpiece and the producers prompt them to ask certain questions. Like, if they know the entrepreneur went bankrupt in the past, they will prompt the dragon if they aren't asking them about their past. Or, if they have a heartwarming story or personal tragedy, they will prompt it. But the producers never stopped my pitch once during the taping. They let it flow for the most part. I was in the den for over an hour and a half, which they boiled down to 7 minutes of TV. I was on Jerry Springer. The producer said, "We are going to take your life and sprinkle some Jerry crack on it." So the story was all fake, but the fighting was real. Subscribe for more videos like this, and yes, I'm a bot. What's your problem?